Hello friends, welcome to Skill Based Learning for SQL. This is the channel in which we always learn about these skills instead of mugging up the things. Right. So, what are the topics which we gonna learn today? The topics are what is database, fundamentals of database, and then in that schema and data, then high level architecture of DB, and then database management system. So let's quickly get started. Okay, so if I ask you that what is database, simply what is database, what is database, right? Database in the short form is also called DB as well, right? Now we all know about army base, all right? What does army base simply means? Base where army is, or base where army is kept. Very simple, right? So what does database means? Database means base where the data is kept. So we will take this example itself every time when we are doing the, or when we are trying to understand about the database. Okay, now what does database simply, okay, the definition: a database is a collection of information. A DB, from here on I will make it as a DB, is a collection of information that is organized, so that it can be easily be accessed, so that it can easily be accessed. What does it mean, right? Let's take an example of army base again, right? Army base is basically kept for what, right? Like army base is basically the place where the army is kept, right? Army base, it is the place where army is kept, right? So that when we need them in case of war, we can easily access them. This is the thing, right? Very simple. In the same way, database is there, right? Now, why we need, what is the importance of database, right? Let's take an example. What is the importance of database? Base, right? Let me give you an example, right? What happens is, like suppose you are having a small coaching center, right? in which 5-10 kids will come. So you can simply maintain in a, in the register or some place where you can say that, we have 5 students and these are the name and this is what they will study, right? Now instead of 5 to 10 people, now your coaching becomes little bit big, and around 150 or 200 people start coming in. Will you be able to maintain the register or diary for that? No, right? Majority of them will say no, right? Now just imagine that, you worked very hard and one day you opened the college, right? And you have thousands of students. Will you be able to maintain that Excel sheet for attendance and for tracking purposes? No, isn't it? So what are you gonna do? You will be maintaining a database in which whenever any student comes, they mark their attendance and everything, whatever it is placed in that, isn't it? Right? So now what does importance of database is? Now import the database basically is responsible of storing the data in the computer based system, isn't it? System where we store the data in the schemas and tables. Okay, we're gonna see what is the schema means, right? Very simple, isn't it? So let's take an example of army base again. Let's take an example of army base. Now what happens is, I'm not sure about other countries, but in India, like, there are different kind of regiments in army. One may be Sikh regiment. I am also not sure, team guys, just in case if I'm saying something wrong, I'm not to blame. The blame has to be go on the movies and all, which tells us all these kind of regiments, right? So I'm just telling those regiments so that I can give an example to make you explain properly, right? Then Sikh regiment is there, Jat regiment is there, right? And then Rajput regiment is there, right? So when we say army, right, army is not army as in army, huge army. Army is also divided into small regiments or small groups with which, like, when there's a war someplace, right? Then suppose Gorkha is there, right? Gorkha regiment is there. So when suppose there is a war, they will say, it's a war which needs ferocious white fighters. So any one of you, maybe Gorkha, you can go, kind of thing, right? What I'm trying to tell over here is that this is the kind of schema in which all the regiment is, or all the army is divided, right? Now in Sikh also there may be battalions, right? Battalion 1, battalion 2, battalion 2, right? Battalion 3, in the same way in Jat and Rajput and in Gorkha, right? So what does it mean? That Sikh, if we say Sikh regiment is taking over, it doesn't mean that whole Sikh regiment is going and sitting over there. There may be some people who are still maybe in army base, and some of their battalions would be there in the front having a war, right? So this one is called as a table in database. And then individual like person like you, right, me, right, and other people, right, these are the part of this battalion, right? This is the data in the database. Now let's convert it into the like into the database. So this is the database. This is called schema. This is called tables, and this is the data, right? So what happens is basically, okay, any questions, just ping me, or just leave your comments. I will, as soon as I get a time, I will go and check and I'll respond to you, right? Now, so in the same way in data, right, database, it is being broadly classified into two parts. One is table, or sorry, schema, then table, and then of course I would say, let's not say 2, let's say 3, and here we say data. Data cannot be classified, but I'm just saying so that you don't have any confusion, right? Then what is a schema? A schema is basically the backbone, like and if suppose schema is not there, then it will make the data messy. Cool. Any questions? Right? It is basically the backbone. If suppose schema is not there, then it will make the data messy. Very simple, right? As simple, right? Now when we say this one, right, and then table is the part of the schema. Which is responsible for keeping the data. Very simple, right? And data is of course the data, right? Data is anything which is any value, which is some value. Very simple, isn't it? As simple as pi, right? Okay, cool. Any questions on this one? Right, I'll just give you one example of kind of data which can be there. Suppose you are owning a shop in which there is an employee name, address, right? And then salary, right? So here what we will say, employee name, address and salary, right? Example, employee name is John, and address is Mumbai, salary is 15,000, just for an example, right? Mary, Delhi, and 20,000. And then Ram, Bangalore, and then 10,000. Simple, right? This is a kind of data, right, which you will be keeping it. Okay. Now, what is the high level architecture of database? It can be like, external view. External view simply means that, the front end with which you are, doing it. Like in my, let me see if I'm having or not. In my next class, I will show you what does external view means. External view 2, right? And external view 3, right? This is having the data model, right? It's a conceptual schema. This also I will tell you in my later classes. And then there is internal storage. Oops. And then there is a internal storage. And then that's it. Now whenever the data is accessed, right, it first go over here, right, and then from here it will go to here to retrieve the data. From here it will come to data model, and then from here it will come to external view 2, view 1 and view 3, right? So this is what is there. Okay, cool. Thank you team, thanks a lot, take care, bye bye.